Issues before we get started. First, I want to invite a business owner or two to dinner with them tonight so that you can have your own private little banquet. And I'm suggesting that Helen, if you'd like to do that, Helen, I said you could go, but I didn't really mean it. That you speak to Helen. Where's Helen? There she is. She's coming running. Isn't that terrific? Thank you. Please, if you are interested as a CSI person or as a guest in taking a couple of business owners to dinner or making a force, whatever, please speak to Helen. Do you want to give that to me? Is that? Okay. Third thing, departure tomorrow. In case I don't get you all together before the end of the day, you must check out before you get on the bus tomorrow morning. Some of you are leaving directly from this hall tomorrow afternoon. Bring your luggage with you on the bus. If you leave it at the hotel, they'll be very, very glad to have it. But it will be gone. Manigingi, I mentioned them yesterday, but I mentioned them again today. Lillian Masabenza's group, Manigingi, they're a cooperative, a series of cooperatives that produce really great handcrafted stuff. They are up and around. Please visit their tables and buy their goods. It's going directly to the crafts maker. If you are doing some shopping in this wonderful city, there's not, this is the place to do it. All right. Now, Mama Morwing, you are standing beside me because there was a question asked yesterday that didn't get answered, and it is an incredibly important question. It hangs over absolutely every discussion of entrepreneurship when you're talking about starting in the townships or in any economically challenged area. And it is the question about how do I find 10% equity when the bank only lends me 90% or whatever, that was Dan Kiva's question yesterday. It's an excellent question. And it never really gets answered by government. And what the heck is equity anyway? I mean, what does that word mean? So you came to speak to me at breakfast, and we see eye to eye on this totally because we both had our own businesses. And you made a very interesting comment about going to get a loan, and somebody saying you had to have 10% equity, and you're saying, what the heck is that? And they come and they value her businesses. She doesn't think she has any equity, right? She doesn't have cash in the bank. Who does? It should, that's like burying your gold in the field. We all know about that stuff in the Bible. Anyway, so they came and valued your business, and they valued it at 390,000 rand. Her 10%, she had it. Okay, just a second. Please tell that story. Or anything else you want to say for 1 second, and then we'll start.
Hi, my name is Mutlalipula Muroyim from Kopani in Zerast in Northwest. This question has taken me a long time to understand, but before I answer it, I must tell you where to learn about it. There's a lady here. Can you please stand up? My friend here from TechnoServe. After this, just meet her and she'll tell you where did I learn about it. In TechnoServe, they teach us how to make our own business plan. That's where you'll get all the answers that we ask SMMEs, because we've got equity and we don't know that we have. That's why we need to borrow 10%. We don't have to borrow 10% because we have the 10%. We have the start of our businesses. We have the small equipment that we have, some things to start with, and it turns out to be even more than 10%. Thank you, bye-bye.
Yeah, so that was worth taking a couple of minutes. I'm sorry, Peter, out of your hour. Okay, I just want to do, well, maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to, 3 things. Yesterday at the afternoon session, the workshop sessions, we really learned a few things. The power of small. I know that Eileen, you, at our workshop table, we were talking initially of 136,000 rand for your business in a box, and then we started rethinking and rethinking. We thought, oh, if we can put it on the back of a Honda scooter and we can downsize it to the way you started, which was without that fancy equipment, maybe you can get that price down to about 10% of that. I mean, absolutely amazing ways of thinking. And that's important to remember. The power of networks, the power of how Mama Morwen could sell her soap through through Walk-in 25, and we start to get networks going all up the system. And the power of systems themselves, that you can, you know, it's true, you may have to start earning only 3,000 Rand a month or something less than that. But if you know, if you can see the path to 15,000 Rand a month down the road in 3 or 4 years, there isn't anybody who's starting who wouldn't be happy with that. And also that you're building assets, you're building something you can sell, you're building a family business, you're building a totally different outlook on life. This is not just a way to earn a paycheck week to week, it is a way actually to build wealth, to actually have something for your family, not just money in the end, but a business that they can run. And on that note, there couldn't be a better person to introduce to run this session. I am absolutely thrilled to have my good friend Peter Moyanga here. Peter's story is exactly that. Peter's been an entrepreneur since he was about 7 years old, and he is now one of McDonald's prize franchisees, and he also is a complete champion all over the continent of micro-franchising, and we are so lucky to have him. And I'll just, so you don't have to introduce everybody else, I'm going to introduce Danny Mensah, who's also going to be sharing the session today. Danny is from Health Keepers in Ghana and has worked many years in micro-franchising. Rose is also from Ghana. Rose Dodd is with Burrow Brands, and Madison Ayers with Honey Care in Kenya. So you've got some of the top micro-franchise people on the continent in Africa here today. I hand it over. Thank you very much. And they all know that I'm awful with the clock.
So I'm thinking I better get up in a hurry. Otherwise, Martha is going to have me checked out before I even get to say anything. You'll forgive me, as you can hear. We are going through that change of season. And I think, you know, my throat is going through a change of season. Yesterday, in fact, I would have been completely, you know, unable to say anything here. I couldn't even say my name. I haven't had this condition for a very long time, so I didn't know how much of a strain it can be to try and just say the basic things, like even just thank you and please. It was so difficult yesterday. Well, I am grateful for the opportunity to be here and talk to you about franchising, share with you about our various experiences, which are all over, by the way. It's not just the 4 people up here or Martha, but everybody in here has an experience to share. Martha, I've been involved with her now, about 1.5 years or 2. You know, it's been quite an interesting, you know, involvement. Martha is based in Canada, so sometimes it's a bit difficult on this side as well. As she said, you know, I have a small business to run, which by its nature, as in all small businesses, requires a lot of attention. So I'm constantly in the business. I always say a small business is like a newborn baby. You know, you got to change its nappies. You got to, you know, even tickle it to make it happy. Remind it that you're still there all the time. You know, so it's not an easy thing. Now, this subject of franchising, some of you were at the, you know, 2-day workshop that we had at LegalWise. Those who were there, please, hands up. I just want to get an idea of how many people are in here that were there. Well, I guess just on about, 20% of us, thank you very much, were there. So you'll forgive me if I bore you a little bit with a little bit of repetition on some of the stuff we spoke about there. I thought it was a very good thing for LegalWise to have actually facilitated that workshop, because what it did is it prepared, I think, a lot of us to be able to sit here and actually take the process forward without the need for us to go back and touch on the basics of franchising. But if I were to, for those who were not there, I think it is important for us to take a back step a bit and talk about what is franchising really. Franchising is an arrangement between 2 entities. One is called the franchisor, who's the owner of the original business, okay, who grants, doesn't sell, grants rights to another entity or an individual who's called the franchisee, okay? So the franchisor is the grantor and the franchisee is the grantee. So the one grants the rights to the other to utilize a system that they've developed around their business, which they've developed over many years in many instances. The important thing to remember is that in franchising, you cannot franchise an idea. Okay? You cannot franchise an idea. You cannot franchise a concept. You franchise a tried and tested business. So this is a business that has been operating for quite a while. The individual has now taken that business and packaged it up into something that can then be granted to somebody else to utilize that system, to run a similar business using that system, so you do not, as a franchisee, have to go through the learning curve that the franchisor has gone through to get to where they are. If there are any questions in this regard, when we get onto the tables, we can actually deal with this more in detail. So the franchisor owns the name, the trademark, and the business systems, whilst the franchisee gets the right to use that trademark, that name, and the system. Then there are responsibilities that, accrue to each one of these parties. The franchisor needs to service the franchisee. How? By providing them with training, opening up, supply chain, supplying, conduits and all that, and on an ongoing basis, providing support to the franchisee for the operation of that business, at an optimum level as the franchisor has designed it to be. In the other side, the franchisee has a responsibility to operate the business according to the model that they got from the franchisor, okay, to ensure that they protect the name of this business, the trademark, the copyright, and all of what that system represents. So you can't, for example, go out there and acquire let's say, a steers business, and a steers business doesn't have pap and stew as part of its menu. And you happen to be in a market where a lot of people are asking you for pap and stew, and overnight you decide, well, I'm going to introduce this because my customers want it. You can't do that. Not under a steers business. You'd have to go and maybe get another franchise that operates and provides that type of product. The other thing, I just want to remind myself so I don't forget some key things. I think that covers it. That really covers what franchising is all about. Obviously, I'm really taking you through a very high level, explanation of what franchising is all about and what it isn't. Okay? It's not a lot of things, and we can deal with that in detail when we talk to each other one-on-one. Now, Martha also touched on my involvement in business. I've been in franchising since 1988. My first franchise was a Wimpy outlet. The first experience I had of a franchise was as a customer at a Juicy Lucy back in 1981, I think, at the corner of Risick and Bree Street, opposite the NBS. There used to be an NBS opposite it. And I couldn't believe how wonderful this business looked. The fact that it was so lit, so clean, so organized, so structured. And I immediately said to myself, when I one day decide to go into business, this is the line of business I want to go into. So eventually in '88, I ended up having a Wimpy outlet. And I tell you, it was an experience of a lifetime, and it continues to this day. Everything else just adds on onto that experience. Martha mentioned that I've been in business. I guess I've been an entrepreneur since I was a little kid. I remember I needed some pocket money, and I was hassling my grandmother for pocket money. And one day she said to me, well, you know what? Come over here. Go into the kitchen. Get the sugar. And I brought out this 2 kilos of sugar. And she told me to start up the fire, get the pot, throw up the sugar into that pot, added a little bit of water, got it to melt, added some essence, took some of my exercise book, the clear paper that I had, cut it into strips, turned it up into cones, put it on sand, and we took that sugar and we threw it inside these things. Okay, and then we took those long toothpicks, if you remember. The toothpicks in those days were long things, about that long, and we stuck into each one of them. About half an hour later, the stuff was dry. And she said, there is your pocket money. Don't ever ask me for a cent again. And I promise you, from there until I finish up school, I never asked for pocket money. If anything, it got to a point where I was bringing money back home. Because every time I went to school, I carried about 10 or 20 lollipops in my bag, which I would sell under the counter, you know. So you want a lollipop? You know, it will cost you 5 cents. Here you are. And so on. And eventually, I set up my own franchisees. Because what I did is I went to my colleagues and I would say to my friends, listen, here are 10 lollipops. You go sell them. You bring me my money, you keep your change. Okay? And so I was running a business at the school. I'm not saying we should do this at school, but, you know, that's how I started my business. With that introduction, you know, I understand Daniel has something to share with you as well, you know, and I look forward to our interaction at the tables, you know. Pardon? Yes. You know, and there will be a lot that we can talk about, you know, about getting into business. Martha mentioned, the lady who was here just now, about seed capital, the 10%. I remember I was doing a workshop when I still worked for McDonald's as a franchising manager. I was doing a workshop and I had a group of probably about 700 people in the room. And there was this elderly gentleman sitting in front, white hair, you know, had this most gorgeous young lady on his right, and, you know, a handsome young man on his right, on the left-hand side. At the break, I walked outside, and this man came to me and said, son, you know, I've been listening to you talking in there, and I've been telling my grandchildren, because these are my grandchildren, that, you know, this is not a line of business that I'm qualified to go into. You were talking about balance sheets, income statements, cash flows, and he could rattle on these names. And he said, this is the first time I come across these names. I've never heard about them. I know nothing about them. But let me tell you something, okay? I'm 76 years old. Outside, I've got a Chevrolet Commando, which belongs to me. Okay, now Chevrolet Commandos hadn't been in a workshop or even in a showroom for the last 20 years, if not 30. But he was talking about the car he had outside. He said, it's mine. I don't owe anything on it, and it drives like a charm. I live in Atteridgeville in Soweto. I mean in Pretoria. The house I live in is my old municipal house, okay? And it's the old 4-room house, which I converted so I could accommodate my 3 children. Now, my 3 children, one is a doctor. She just graduated as a doctor. I got 2 sons, one of whom is a principal of a school, and the other one is a lawyer. I educated all of them. I never took any assistance from anyone. And when I retired, I think it was about 10 or 12 years earlier, he said, my last salary was 3,000, I think 600, I can't remember the exact number, but I just know that it was, you know, a whisker shot of 4,000 rand. He said, I've never borrowed anything, but I know nothing about what you're telling me. I was humbled. I stood back and I'm thinking to myself, you know everything about cash flow. In fact, you know everything about managing, you know, your income statement. Better than a lot of the people over here with their MBAs, doctorates, and all that. Because you have actually managed to do all of that on 3,000 rand. I take my hat off to you. You know? And yet, he didn't think he could fit into the business. Why? Because he didn't know what an income statement is. But he could practice it. He didn't know what was a cash flow, but he had already been practicing it. He didn't know what a balance sheet was, but if you explained to him, he could tell you, you know, where he stood from an asset and liabilities point of view. He told me he didn't have any debts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. You know, it's always easy to speak after key speakers like Peter, who are authorities in franchise themselves. But I'm going to attempt to, and in my presentation, we'll cover some grounds that he touched on already. And Martha and Co, thank you very much for bringing me from Accra to share my experiences in the field of franchising with you. It's been dating back over the last 10 years, and I'm happy to be with you here. My presentation is on tapping the power of franchising. Indeed, this is a power a powerful force that can be leveraged in any business spheres. But as businessmen and women here, you will agree with me that at the point where you were setting up your business, there were questions that were asked, and I believe some of these questions are still being asked. That the business that you're entering into, what need are you trying to fill with that business? And then it came up with it, how strong is this need felt by your target market? And can this need that you are trying to fill be met profitably? What value propositions were you proposing to offering to your customers? I don't know the stage in which your business is. If it's at the beginning stage, I'm sure you're still asking these questions. And even if you're running and are matured, you still continue to ask yourself whether you are being able to respond to these questions well or not. Indeed, these, depending on the stage in which you are, you may be going through different processes in your mind as to whether you are expanding your business or you are improving on a business stage in which you are. But if you are at the point and you are here today thinking about expanding your business, what approach are you hoping to adopt? There are different pathways that you can take. There are different approaches that you can adopt in expanding your business. However, if you are thinking of going into franchising, then I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself and be convinced that your original business concept that you thought of is sound enough before you even begin to think about franchising. Because if you haven't built that business model or that business concept to the level that it's sound enough, I think you will be making a mistake thinking about franchising. What is franchise? Peter has spoke extensively about that. So let me skip those two slides and then the definition that have been put up there. But loosely, we will all agree that it's a network of privately owned facilities operating under a single brand to replicate a uniform operating model under supervision and monitoring for a predictable and high level of service and exploiting economies of scale to streamline the operations. Indeed, we can go ahead and say that the franchising is a business model that is safer for managers than an individual enterprise. A set of constraints and incentives are there, which was touched on in detail by Peter. It is also a powerful group organization with guaranteed learning from other members and a systematic training from expert and management assistants. Why tap? If you decide to go into franchising, I believe some of the questions that you should be asking yourself is, what type of it are you thinking of going into? It could be a commercial franchising, it could be a social franchising. It depends on where and what your orientation and your business objectives are. Is it a greenfield one you are thinking of, or a conversion franchising model? Are you hoping to set up fresh and build new models out there, or you are going out to the communities to pick up existing business model and convert them into your franchising model? There are quite a number of questions that you need to answer before you consider which path to go to. There are so critical success factors that need to be in place for you to be able to think of franchising your business. And indeed, one of them should be that your business model should be scalable and replicable. Each of your business outlets should also be self-sustaining and profitable. Profitable, especially in the case of commercial franchising. That is not to say that social franchising upholds profit, but then you're looking at different motives, and if it's in social franchising, you're hoping to plow back your business into improving your profits into the business to improve of your stated objectives. Do you have qualified and interested franchisees providing hands-on management, or it should also be almost exactly the same as you seek to replicate your business model or franchise your business? Why should people buy into your franchise and not other one? Indeed, for every business, there are some basic requirements that any business that perceived is required of any business. The perceived value that people will pay for your business will depend how much they think of it. And you should also have good answers to these questions. I've asked before that why do you think people should go and buy into your business and not other businesses? For everybody or anybody buying into your franchise, there are some minimum expectations that they require of your program. They expect that your franchise should have a brand equity, an equity that when they buy into it, immediately they will have brand recognition. It is not that they are now going to start all over to reinvent the wheel. They should have that favorable image in the community to profit from it. There should be that latent demand for your product and services that you are seeking to sell to them. They should have access to know-how and expertise. Indeed, here we are looking at learning. They don't need to go back and learn that whole business model from the scratch. And then they don't have to go through the pain you went through in establishing your business. It should be something that they can easily pick and run away with it. It has to have been a very proven business formula, that all the elements, all the systems and things are in place. Indeed, if it's a marketing mix, it's all secured that they can tap into it, immediately pick a model and be running up with it. Your cost systems have to be efficient. They have to be well calculated that I know that this is what I'm buying into, and if I bought it at this rate, within the next 2, 3, 4 years, I'll be breaking even and be making profit. All that has to be clearly articulated. And also the administrative and business support that can be provided for businesses of this nature. Indeed, nobody is saying going the franchising way is a rosy one. There are obviously bound to be a number of challenges in going that pathway. And it is clear that in scaling up, there are bound to be issues of managing and supervising your growing business network. How do you logistically be able to support all this network, then a number of franchises? You need to be thinking about this. In also a number of sectors, it's not easy at all, especially in this part of our world, to be able to charge appropriately the joining fees and also the royalties that is required of businesses of this nature. We also have issues sometimes to do with the level of controls. Depending on which model you pick, you may have a full or partial control on it, and it may have impact on how you operate your business going forward. And so these are obvious challenges that you need to prepare your minds for if you're going to go into the franchising. Meeting your total request of your franchises also is not easy, if you are especially not in control of all the raw material or the resources coming in. We found out that changing people's behavior by far has also been one of the difficult things to run in franchises. Your clients and even the customers of your clients are obviously some of the major challenges that may be coming your way. Indeed, financing has also been an issue. And I think these are some of the challenges and more that when we get into the questions section, I'll be able to respond better to. I run a franchise which is known as the Health Keepers Network franchise. It is a community-based franchising system which is seeking at improving access to basic health protection products. What we do out there is that in the communities, we go out there to engage with women who are based in the community. We recruit them, train them, and equip them with basic health protection products. These are insecticide-treated and household tablets, iodized salt, reading glasses, and a number of other health protection products, condoms, and oral contraceptive pills. These are mainly public health goods. But what we've done with these commodities is that we have, in addition to this, carefully selected other products that we will call door openers or revenue enhancers, like toothpaste, toothbrushes, household cotton wool, crepe bandages, and a host of other products, which goes in to enhance the revenue of these women who reside in the community. And so they have given aprons, they carry a basket with these products, and they move from doorstep to doorstep in the community, not only selling this health protection product, but offering advice to the people in the community and linking them to the various health systems. So there is an established referral system where when they meet cases which are over and above what they are capable of doing, they refer to the healthcare facilities. I was previously involved with the Care Shop franchise, which is an essential medicines franchise. That franchise also sought to convert existing medicine sale outlets into a franchise network so that they could tap into the power of pool procurement and also improve on the distribution system. My work has mainly been in the health space, combining the franchising and microfinancing. I'll rest my case, and if there are questions, I will want to take it up at that point. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
My name is Rose, I'm from Buro Brand Ghana Limited. It's a relatively new company. We've been running for 3 years, about, and I'm just going to talk for 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. So Buro, our main basic aim is to bring products and services to low-income communities. Right now, we are operating in mainly rural areas where the people are farmers. Some of them own small shops where they sell little things to the people in their community. And we are based in Ghana. We are in a single pilot branch right now, and we are seeking to expand by the beginning of next year to other locations in Ghana. We work through resellers, which we would call franchisees. Currently, we have 135 resellers in the area that we are in, and they are serving about 3,200 clients or households, you can say. So on micro-franchising, with Buro, our model, like Peter said, and Daniel, there's many different kinds of franchise models. And like Daniel mentioned, you have to know what your model is for your company and be sure that this is how it should all be set up so that you know how to scale it up to other people. And with Buro, we are building a brand because we have certain products right now that we give to our franchisees, and they run their business. They sell to clients as their business. But we are more concerned with building a brand so that we can have many different products. Because, as I'm sure we all know, in many African countries, for example, Ghana, where I am, there's many different ethnic groups and many different communities they need many different things. So having a catalog of products, having the ability to add more products to what we have is something that we are interested in. That's what we are focused on. These resellers that we use are people that live in the community. So they are your next door neighbor, they are your father, your brother, your sister. And many of them are not, they don't have the highest level of education. Many of them are just simple farmers. And since we are trying to franchise our brand, we have a very rigorous reseller selection process. So for us, that's like one of the core things of getting franchisees. We enter into a community and we organize meetings. And with the help of the community, we pick resellers. The community helps us bring out a couple of people, and then we tell them this is our requirements for picking a reseller. They have to be honest. They have to have time. They have to be ready to take on another business. Because not everybody wants to add another business to what they are already doing. And if you are a company and you want to franchise out, you want somebody who takes it as their business. One of the challenges is there's the risk, if I should say, of franchising out to someone who feels like, at least in our circles, because we go out and give to these low-income people, there's a risk of them feeling like they are working for us or doing Buro a favor by doing a Buro business. But the thing is, we want our resellers to take it as their own personal business. So as such, the selection process that we go through is very important because at the end of the day, when the reseller takes it as their business, they are able to run with it, and with the support that we, the franchisers, give to the reseller, they're able to make more income to supplement what they already have. One unique thing about Buro's model is that we give to these resellers on consignments. So the resellers do not need starting capital to work with us. And that's also one of the reasons why the selection process is very important. And because of that, we have to see our resellers very often. So in a branch, say where we are right now, we see our resellers, out of the 135, we see about 85% at least once a week, not less than once a week. And we hope to see 100% once a week, but we see about 85% now, once a week. And they come to us with what they've sold, they get fresh products, and they get needed marketing, they bring their problems. Our model is to make it such that the franchisees are small businesses by themselves, but then they know that the bigger company is always there to provide them with marketing support, to provide them with client support, because it's not a very big culture to have very good client service, at least in Ghana. And that is what our brand is all about, to make sure that the client is always getting what they need. So our resellers have to know that we are always ready to give them what they need so they can give the clients what they need. So we are planning, we set up one reseller with the products, the services, the training that they need to start up their business. We usually do an initial sales meeting for them in their area, in their location where they are working. And with our presence, helping them do the initial sales and introduction, the people, his markets, the resellers' markets, his or her markets, is certain that the reseller is genuine. And from there, they get the support of their community or of their market. Because the community, one, helps pick them, and they know that this person is representing this company, and this company really does exist, and this company will always listen to us whenever we need them to. And when the reseller starts their business, we help them, like I said, in any way that they need help with. We started with many, many resellers. We started with about 250, almost 300 resellers. Right now we have 135, and it's growing back up. And one reason we took off many of the resellers is it's on consignment basis. So they are not paying for the startup when they earn commission instead. So a reseller has to meet certain performance criteria to make it worth serving them every week, you know. And if a reseller just takes it on average as a business that they run every day, and it's very direct selling, it's very direct marketing, door to door almost. If they do that every day, it is very easy to get a reseller on the metrics that they need to be on. Within a month, a reseller is already on track with the necessary metrics that they need to sustain their business and to make enough income monthly. Okay, so I'll take questions later. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Madison Eyre. I'm the CEO of Honey Care Africa, based in Nairobi. We work with smallholder farmers for honey production, beekeeping. Beekeeping is a potentially very lucrative activity for rural households. Thank you. There are a number of benefits to beekeeping, including social and economic benefits and environmental benefits. There's pollination benefits for these households that grow certain crops. And the revenue and income that they can generate from commercial honey production can sometimes be significant. Traditionally, beekeeping is not a huge income generator. Traditional beekeeping involves hollow logs in the top of trees, lots of fire, lots of angry bees, and the yield is traditionally quite low. However, in rural areas, most households view this as beekeeping. Honeycare has developed a full package for more modern techniques and more modern products. This involves the Langstroth beehive, which has been designed to optimize the amount of honey that can be produced in a season. It involves setting up and managing apiaries that are at ground level. This makes it much safer, much more convenient to do beekeeping. It makes it much more productive because at ground level near the household, monitoring the beehives can be done on a regular basis without too much time, as opposed to going out and climbing trees, which people generally don't like to do very often. So, Honeycare, in order to promote commercial beekeeping, which can then become a very consistent and meaningful income, as opposed to a random and small income, has developed a full micro-franchise package that we work with for smallholder farmers. This package involves both products and technical support. So the products that we sell are Langstroth beehives and all of the accessories that are necessary to be a successful beekeeper. This includes a bee suit and a smoker and other bee tools. So those are the products that we sell as part of the package. The technical support that we provide involves an initial area assessment to determine where the household would optimally set up their apiary, how many hives that their area or their land can support. It's a 3-day training session on modern beekeeping techniques. And then we have field officers that provide ongoing extension services to help those households through their first harvest, to make sure they understand the monitoring, make sure they can troubleshoot correctly, and make sure that they actually harvest correctly so they're getting optimal yields and optimal quality. Finally, as part of the package, Honeycare offers a guaranteed contract to purchase back all of the honey that they produce so that they don't need to worry about the market. It's there. We've put all of this into a micro-franchise package because we sell honey. And we've been doing some math here over the past couple of days, and our expansion plans call for more than 20 tons of honey per day. That's a lot of honey. That's truckloads of honey per day. So we need lots and lots of honey production happening. The numbers that breaks down to are approximately 100,000 households in Kenya alone producing honey at commercial levels. That's pretty large scale. That's pretty rapid expansion that we need. So we've designed this micro-franchise package as the method to roll this out at that level of scale. A standard package with standard products and the standard technical assistance that comes with it. Since inception, Honeycare's worked with about 15,000 households. So we have a lot to go to get to 100,000. But now that we've fine-tuned this package, now that we've partnered with microfinance institutions in Kenya to provide the startup capital for this package, now we're ready to tackle the 100,000 number. So I want to emphasize that we've selected micro-franchising as the method to roll this out and get it up to scale. The micro-franchise itself is not a business, it's the method to getting this up to scale and getting to 100,000 producers. We believe our package is quite good, but it comes with a number of challenges. And I think what's important for everybody today to think about and at this conference is all of the challenges that can come along with franchising or micro-franchising. I think everybody has heard and is probably aware of the potential benefits and the potential power of the method for scaling up. But as business owners, you have to think about the risks as well. So I want to end this and get into questions and then get into the workshop by giving a couple of examples of some of the challenges that may be inherent in micro-franchising. The first one is the legal or other enforcement of the franchisees. In a typical franchise model, there is a legal agreement, in most cases, with the franchisees, because the franchisor has to protect the brand or has to protect the quality, has to protect the system. With micro-franchisees, legal enforcement may not be an option. It just may be impractical. The enforcement may not exist. The costs of enforcing simply might not matter. In our case, there's always the option of repossessing the package or the assets that the micro-franchisee is using. But in our case, our asset is a beehive filled with 60,000 bees. We're not anxious to repossess that. So we have to come up with other methods of enforcing this contract. There will always be some kind of contract, but it may not be a legal contract. In our case, we want high quality honey to be produced. Honey is easy to dilute. You can dilute it with water, you can dilute it with sugar syrups, you can dilute it with worse. But the end consumer brand of Honey Care Africa honey is pure honey, high quality. So we need a way to enforce that all of these farmers are actually producing this high quality honey. This is one particular challenge that we face. Another challenge has been the financing aspect of it, and there's been a lot of discussion of that. What we're doing is rolling out standard loan products with our microfinance partners. And the more standardized this package that we can develop, then it's easier for them to provide the initial financing for this. However, that's still a big burden when we're talking micro, because even if the initial buy-in fee for the package is relatively small, that may be a big problem for a lot of the potential households that are out there. So we're working continuously to find better ways to overcome that barrier. What's the lowest amount of a down payment that somebody has to come up with? This equity we're talking about. What's the lowest amount of the equity that is sufficient that the microfinance institution will then make the loan? I think we have a number of other examples that within the workshops we can begin discussing today. The theme is, what are the risks for micro-franchising your business, and is it the best option for expansion? So that I think we'll get to questions. We have a few minutes for questions, I believe. Thank you.
Please take 2 or 3 at once. We ask people to identify themselves, to ask a question quickly, and because I took some time, let's say it's 10 to 11 now, let's take until, in fact, about 5 past 11. So we have 15 minutes for questions, and please take over, and I will run around with the microphone. So your name first, please. You tell me where to go, and I'll run over.
Mr. Honey, I think I'll start with you. At home, me and my brother, we have the uniform. My brother bought the uniform because I need honey for my soap. And what's happened is this: we've got a problem with the lace of the cap. It always, after I wash it, it's got holes, and I don't know where to get the lace to put back on the cap. I need that. And also, I think we need training on bees. Thank you.
Mehdi Dutay, Planet Finance. My questions are for Danny and Madison. You mentioned partnerships with microfinance institutions. I would like to know what challenges you faced in getting to those partnerships. Thanks.
From Pagamani. Madison, cost of entry, ongoing royalties, how many of the 15,000 have stayed, and how long to reach profitability?
Okay, first question. If you're beekeeping in Kenya, I can help. I may not be quite so helpful here in South Africa, but we can talk about where we get our supplies from, if maybe there's a connection there. Challenges with our microfinance partners. The biggest challenge we've experienced so far is we've tried to put this entire thing into a package, which includes both products, physical products, but also the TA, the service, the training. Our MFI partners don't want to fund that. We've looked at it, they don't want to do it. Not now, at least. The idea being, if we've delivered the product, then that's pretty objective. That household, that farmer got the product, they owe the loan. The experience of our MFI partners for training or service extension or anything else is that it becomes very subjective. And the farmer says, well, I missed a day of training, or the training wasn't very good, or I didn't like the service, and they don't pay back the loan. I think that's, in putting together this as a comprehensive package, that's still the biggest challenge we're experiencing for financing of it.
I'll add on by saying that we also tried to even engage clients of the microfinance institutions as franchisees by offering the package to the institutions to give to their clients. Indeed, they were not in a mood to even guarantee for clients to take up these businesses. We tried a scenario also where we went ahead ourselves to engage clients who belong to some of the microfinance institutions. But then payment also became an issue. From the same stream, they were using part to service. If it's a product loan you've offered them, they needed to pay back your product loan. Even if the product is on consignment, they needed to pay you, whilst servicing their loan facilities with the banks as well. So there was always that challenge or pressure on the little resources that they have. And so one still needs to be a bit innovative in dealing with the MFIs as far as the combination of franchising and the financing mechanisms are concerned.
There were a few questions on the last one. I think I got most of them, starting with what's the cost of entry. And beekeeping package is anywhere from about 5,000 to 15,000 Kenyan shillings, which I believe is about 500 to 700 to 1,200 in that range rand. If I'm doing my, I'm going through about 4 currencies to get there. We believe that's within the range that MFIs fund, and they think that's decent. There are generally no ongoing fees. It's an upfront investment. The fees would come in subsequent years if repairs or additional equipment become necessary. After a couple of years, you might need to make repairs or buy additional super boxes for the beehives. That would be the additional fees. As far as profitability and break even, this is something that this gets back to another challenge that we've been working with our MFI partners, which is, it seems about 12 months is about as far out as anyone really wants to look for a loan. With a lot of luck, a household might produce enough honey within their first 12 months to pay back that loan. But that will require a lot of luck. And generally, financial partners don't lend based on luck. More realistically, it'll take anywhere from 20 to 30 months of decent honey harvests to generate the cash flow sufficient enough to pay back that loan for the equipment. So that's another one of the challenges that we're having. It is as a long-term investment, beehives will last 8, 9, 10 years. So as a long-term investment, the return is very good. However, the short-term outlook, generally households are not looking beyond 1 year, and consequently the MFIs are not looking beyond 1 year. So that's the challenge.
A couple more questions.